If you're putting together your website and your business technology stack and you've been searching on YouTube and you're not finding what you're looking for, this is the video you need to watch, because I'm going to break down the 5 fundamental functions that you need to know before you actually launch a website that serves your business. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly, and I'm not going to talk specifically to any tools or platforms. I'm going to do that in another video where I recommend the tools that I like. But right now, I just really want you to get a sense of why that website building tool seems like it's missing something. And I talked about this in a short recently, but most of the videos out there that tell you how to launch a website or build a website are specifically speaking to the visual layer of the website. This is going to go underneath those parts into the stuff that I call the internet plumbing. All right, this is not rocket science. And even if you haven't worked with tech before, you should be able to understand this. This is the video nobody else has put out there that I can find. So let me break this down into the 5 tools you need to launch your website. All right, the first thing you're going to need to know is the term domain registrar. Your domain registrar is the place where you register your domain or your web address or your URL. But more than that, it's also the place where you're going to manage something called DNS, Domain Name Services. And in plain English, this is kind of like the postal service of the internet. DNS is the tool that you use to link all the different pieces of your website infrastructure together behind the scenes. And it lets people know that you're legitimate, that you are who you say you are, that your emails are getting delivered, that your website is allowed to send emails from your address, and all of that kind of stuff. So a domain registrar it's important to pick a good domain registrar, because you're going to probably be talking to their chat tech support, and there are definitely some that are better and more well-known, and some that are not as good on the support part. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're not super technical, you're going to want great support. So domain registrar, that's number 1. The second thing you're going to run across is, where are you hosting your website? And a website host is different than a website builder, is different than a website. And the website host, if your website is kind of like a house, the website host is the land the house is sitting on. It's the digital server space on the internet that's going to provide the actual physical location that holds your website files. And again, you can go to a convenience platform and they're going to host your site for you, but then they're going to tie on all sorts of bells and whistles behind the scene and charge you for every one. So picking your own website host and setting that up puts you in a lot better position and leaves you in a space where you can control where your website is living. Cool. All right, the third tool, your email service provider, or your ESP, not the psychic kind. Your email service provider is the tool that's going to allow you to receive and send emails. And it's easy to think that maybe that should just be bundled in with your website, and it can be, but that's not always the best way to go. You want to pick your email service provider based on your business's needs and how secure you want your email to be. And you also want to use that DNS that I mentioned earlier to be able to configure your email so that your outbound messages don't land in your clients' or leads' spam boxes. It's a very important thing and something I see people struggle with on a regular basis. Again, I'm going to recommend specific tools in another video, so this is just an overview of the function, right? Doesn't matter which tool you're using, these are the functions that you're going to need to cover. The 4th tool on your list is called a payment gateway. And again, if you've gone to some place like Wix or Squarespace, or you're using a website builder tool that is offered through another service, they'll offer you the option to sell or do e-commerce. Let me tell you, setting up your own payment gateway and then linking it to your website is essentially free. You're still going to pay transaction fees, but there's absolutely no reason to pay e-commerce fees if you've properly set up a payment gateway and linked it to your website. Having access to your own payment gateway also gives you the ability to go in and customize how you accept payment and how your books are kept and what kind of receipts your customers get. So having a payment gateway set up is kind of critical if you're planning on selling anything online. And the final tool I want to talk about is your customer tracking tool, or your customer list. Now, this can be as simple as a spreadsheet. It can be as fancy as something like Salesforce, and there's lots and lots of different options in between. When you go to pick your tool for customer tracking, again, you're going to want to think about your business's needs and how you like to interact with this kind of information. But it's really important to keep track not only of who your customers are, but also what they have done with you in the past. Have they downloaded a specific lead magnet? Have they purchased a specific course or product? Your customer tracking tool is the thing that allows you to personalize and build that relationship with your customers. And that is a long-term, very good thing. Okay? So if you are building your website and right now you're focused on the sections and the images and the copy and the calls to action, all of that is really important. But that's the visual layer that sits on the outside of your whole website building process. And when you understand how to interact with the tools and platforms that give you these things, that's when you really start to gain agency and sovereignty over your website. And if you map it all out like this, it'll also help you keep track of how much you're paying, when you need to renew, who has access to these different platforms and tools. All of those are very important. And I don't know why people don't talk about these when they're talking about building a website. Maybe they think it's too complicated. I think you are perfectly capable of understanding this stuff. And in the Webmakers Commons, this is a lot of what we do. We help people set up their internet plumbing, set up the links between tools. And even if you end up hiring somebody to build out the design of your website or build out the content or the copy that you're putting through your website, because sometimes that's a good option. Even if you have somebody on board that's doing that stuff for you, you want to be the one that owns these accounts, because this stuff is what's going to make sure that you really, truly, fully own your website platform and the tools behind it and can make decisions that are best for you. I hope this was helpful. If you like this video, I've got more like this coming. We're going to break down other like horizontal concepts, right? We're not just talking about website builders or email marketing or branding or yada, yada. We're not just talking about individual pieces. I like to bring them all together in a holistic way, because that's where I've seen the majority of small business people struggle and be frustrated, because nobody's talking about how to link these different kinds of tools together. I'm here to fix that. So follow along, and I hope that you are enjoying this process. That's important too. All right, I'll see you in the next video.